So one of the things that you'll be doing right away is creating the page content that will support each of the school sites themselves, which you already have, to a degree, kind of. So as an example, what's the address? I can't remember off the top of my head for Hooksett right now.
Hooksett.k12.nh.us.
Hooksett.k12.
I know, come on.
Oh, there it is. I got it. Let's go to Memorial. Okay, so here's a good example. General information on the Hooksett Memorial School site. That's a page. You would go and basically take. Oh,
What?
What did I just do?
Yeah, it's like.
I don't know why I'm using my trackpad. I have my mouse here. So basically, what you can do is go into this.
Right.
Control-C. So, and this, if you really wanted all of that, and the other thing, this could be broken up into a couple of pages. You could call the main page general information, and then you could have breakfast and lunch programs, cancellations and delays, changing, So let's do it that way, just as the example for this. So we're going to go into pages. Right now, there's only a sample page in there, so I'm just going to throw that in the trash. I don't need it. Just to point out, so now that I've moved it into trash, immediately I get a message that says, "Oh, did you want to do that? Undo," And then also now you'll see that there's a link here that says, "Oh, here's the things that are in your trash. If I want to restore it, I can do that from trash." So
how long does that stay there?
Forever, until you remove it completely. So eventually, it's a good practice to go in and clean that out once in a while. And we'll have a plugin in there that will allow you to do that bulk for the entire site with like 2 clicks. You can also bulk select though, so if you had like 100 things in here, you could just select all and then just say delete. And that's nice, so I can say delete permanently and then apply, and it'll just throw it all away. Getting back to all. So I'm going to create a new page. And you can do that here, you can do that there. So, general information. Okay. I'm just going to publish that.
So the font styles and all picks up from the theme you used.
Well, the font styles and stuff, that's one of the, I would say, more challenging aspects of how this works, is that the back end of it, like, it's going to be very generic of what you're writing in there. You'll be able to create links and buttons and columns and all sorts of fun stuff. But the front end of it, it will look different because it's going to be using style sheets and stuff that's going to be overriding all that. So what you need to be concerned with is, organizing your stuff, linking it properly, using the correct headings for section dividers, bulleted lists, things like that, and keeping it nice and clean so that when you push it up there, it just does what it's supposed to do because we've already pre-programmed all of it.
Okay.
So something that I'll point out right here as I'm getting into just putting in some simple content, there's a button here at the end that's toolbar toggle. You can see like I've got very basic options here. If you click that once, it just reveals everything else. Once you do that once, it will always be open everywhere. It's one of the #1 things that happens immediately when people start working on it. They're like, "You were doing all this stuff. I don't see any of those options." It's just toggle the toolbar open. So I publish this page, and then I'm going to go back to here, and I'm just going to create a child page called Breakfast and Lunch Programs. So I'm going to add another new page. And I'm just going to paste in. So here's something I'll point out too. See, do you see? It's probably hard to see because it's small on the screen, but there are these embedded P tags now that have like hard-coded colors and styles in them. When you're copying and pasting from the web back into another web editor, WordPress tries to get cute and say, well, obviously you want it to look just like it does on the other site, so I'm just going to take whatever style information is associated with that and make sure that it's there for you so that it looks just right. And we don't want it to do that. It's helpful and all, but not so much. So what I recommend that you do when you paste into your page, by default this is set to visual. All you have to do is click it over to text, and then, oops, I had lost what I had copied before.
Oh, it takes all that HTML
So it
text
cleans
out.
it all
Yeah,
out.
it's totally strips it out. So when you drop it in here, now it's got nothing associated. So now when I turn it over, it's okay, everything's normalized. I don't have any extra spacing or weirdness. And that's something immediately when you start working with this, you can run into problems because you're like, I wanted to add a return and it's not spacing right, and it's like wrapped in some random div with like negative padding on it, and it's just because it's all carryover from something that,
Copied.
yeah, exactly. The other thing that I would say too is like these are all in caps. Take the time to get rid of that. If you want it to be in all caps, then we can do that through the style sheet.
Okay.
Because that way if you decide later down the line, we are so sick of all caps, I can just
Right.
turn it off on the style sheet and it'll update the entire site all at once. So, and you can use an ampersand if you want it, you know, that kind of thing.
So is that like web protocol now to just use ampersand from
No, again, it's just about if you want to shorten it up or make it look a little spiffier, that kind of thing. I don't know. If you do use an ampersand, the other thing I would point out is that if you want to edit what the slug of the page is for the URL, it won't. It'll spell out the word and. You probably don't even need that from an optimization standpoint. You just do breakfast-lunch programs. So, you know, just from a consideration standpoint, like say for instance you were going to copy and paste that URL somewhere else for someone to use, you know, it's just. And here's the other part of the URL stuff that I wanted to show you. So because breakfast and lunch programs is a part of general information, I'm going to change the parent page to general information.
Oh, so it doesn't I was gonna ask you that, so when you created that page, it didn't matter that you had already just created that journal, it wasn't
No,
automatically
you have to
put
tell
in.
it if you want it to tie to something else versus be another top level element.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with how the menu sets up or anything. This is purely about organizing your info on the back end
Mhm.
and what the URLs of your pages are going to be. So when I publish this now, you'll see the URL changed to sau15.net/general information/breakfast-lunch programs because now it's under that section. And you may go back and maybe information is a little bit too long, so I'm going to go back and change that to like general info, and you can actually, instead of having to go back all the way into the page, I can just do a quick edit, and that just brings up like is it published, when was it published, who the author is, do you want to password protect it. You can change if this isn't a child of something else, you can make it a child of another page, and then you can also edit the slug, and I can change that to general info and just click update.
Now, is there a preview button that you can see what it looks like with the style before?
That's actually something that if you've used Joomla in the past, this does light years better than what Joomla ever did, because you could only ever preview something in a little box,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh great, that tells me a whole lot about how that's going to look. It's two things. Since I've already published this, it doesn't say preview page, but if I made edits to this, and maybe I want to see what that looks like as like a heading 3. And now I can click preview changes, and it opens up a new window, and now I'm previewing that page on the site. But it's not published, it's just
Right.
preview state.
That's cool. Okay.
And you'll see that, so this added this as a submenu item. It's because we haven't created a menu yet, it's just automatically doing it right now. It's not going to be like that when we're done with this, and we'll get there, I'll show you why. But So that's basic editing of pages. I'll do one more so I can show you the preview. Let's add a new page. So now here's another feature. So I haven't saved the change that I just made on this page, and I tried to go somewhere else to create a new page, and WordPress stopped me and it said, hey, if you leave, you're not going to be able to retain what you just did. So I'm going to say, nope, I'm going to stay on this page, and I'm going to click Update to save the heading that I just added in. And it gives you a nice, this maintenance mode thing, that's just going to be there until we launch the site. But it gives you a nice response. This is done. You can view the page now if you want to, that kind of thing. So now I'm going to add one more new page. I'm going to do the cancellations and delays page.
I like that it's taking the name of the page from the header, the title.
Yep.
And it knows to include a dash if there's a space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Instead
It's
of
all
space.
it's all automated.
What is the HTML on a space? Like that percent and percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. None of that. We're gonna have it's all gonna be very uniform, search engine friendly URLs for everything. No extra work required on your end of things. Oh, actually, that's something else I wanted to install in here. I'll do that in a second. Cancellations and delays. I'm going to make this a child of general info. Again, now because I haven't published this yet, you'll see there's two links over here. One where I can save it as a draft. So if I'm not ready to publish it and I want to work on it later, I can just save it as a draft and it'll sit in the pages section and it'll be marked as draft. And you can easily sort all your pages and say like, okay, well, what active drafts do I have that I need to work on? Versus I can immediately click preview and it's going to show me exactly what this looks like as I'm working on it. So I know it's impressive when you look at it, right?
Very clean.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So so underwhelming in the beginning, right? So does that save draft, preview, that's all good. We'll just publish that, get it over with, and move on.
Did you, while I was out of the room, the visibility public?
Yeah.
Is there one of the choices on that?
You can password protect it and you can make it private. So what we'll end up doing when we get into like the teacher content and things like that, where you have like registered users of the site and they'll be getting into certain places. We'll be adding an additional box over here. That's going to come out good on the video. Over here, that will allow you to check off which role types are able to access the content. So you really won't probably be using this all that much, to be honest with you. If you needed to create a page really quick that you wanted to throw some content on that you wanted to password protect for a certain group of people, it makes it really easy for you to just generate a page, write a password, send out an email, and be like, here's all the stuff that we just wanted to make available from the meeting on our website. You just plug in this password and you can get access to it. All right. So we'll cancel that. The other thing I would point out too about the publish block, you can also schedule stuff to publish. So it doesn't unpublish stuff, but if you have like a notice that you wanted to work on Monday and you wanted to have it post on the website on Thursday, you can set the day and exact time that actually becomes available to the public.
But you have to go back and take it off.
You do have to go back and take it off.
Now
So-
Joomla will take it off.
Well, that's it. We should,
Joomla 1.
yeah.
WordPress
But I do like that.
There are plugins that you can add into this that allow you to do that. We've had limited success with it. Doesn't mean there hasn't been a better one that's been built in the last year or so. So something to look at in the future for sure. So what it does is, and the reason why we use this,
Like it's tagging?
nope, it's so this page is breakfast and lunch programming.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just say
Food.
Now that's pulling a live keyword recommendation search from Google. So you can look at this and be like, okay, well, I'll use breakfast and lunch. It allows you to customize the title of what appears in, and that's what appears in,
Oh, Google search?
well, yes, in the Google search. Where's my view? So up here in the tab. So breakfast and lunch. So that's the title of the page, and you can customize that. And if you forget to do it, it'll default it to whatever the title of the page is, dash like the site name. That's not necessarily always the best combination of factors for that. So this allows you to say like, breakfast. Something like that. And then what this is doing above here is that these are the key areas where you, based on what you put in for your focus keyword, because that's essentially what this is about, it's telling you, okay, well, these are the other places that you should use that phrase to optimize this content, and you didn't use it in your URL, you didn't use it in your content once, and you didn't put it in your meta description. So, okay, well, now I can write my meta description. Breakfast and lunch programs. It gives you the counter, it tells you how much real estate you have left, and then again it starts to update this as you continue to refine the mix of the information that makes up each post. So is it super crazy necessary for you guys to get like mental about that for every single thing you do? No, your schools. People are going to find you because they need to find you because they live in the area. But just so that you know how the tool works, and if you have more news-based postings and ongoing updates and things like that, when people are searching for stuff online, like, football games, like upcoming, football game schedule at, Colleague Middle School or whatever, it's going to be able to find all of those things a lot quicker. And then the organic results that will appear for that, because people are so localized to where you guys are, and they're most likely going to be searching in the region anyway, you're going to be able to own a lot more top-tier real estate and make it that much quicker and easier for people to get directly into the thing that they want, rather than having to go to the homepage, go to the events, finagle around with that, find the category, you know what I'm saying?
And that's for any search engine.
Any search engine. So, the other nice part about what that does too is it creates XML sitemaps automatically as you create more information, and then it submits them automatically. So every time your content changes and updates on your website, it's constantly resubmitting stuff to search engines, so you don't have to remember to do that. And it also gives you the capability to tell search engines, like, I don't want search engines to follow this, or do not index this, Anyway, so.
So if we have any negative information, we can
Yeah.
say.
Do not fall.
Remove, yeah. Okay, so that's pages. The posts, just to kind of give you a demo of like how that functionality and updating. A lot of the stuff that we just went through in pages in terms of editing the content, previewing, and scheduling, that's exactly the same for everything else. One of the best things about how WordPress works is it's extremely consistent from content type to content type. It's not like, oh, I'm going to work with events now, and that's a whole different interface that I have to learn. It's all very seamless. Going back to earlier when we talked about screen options, maybe there's some stuff here I don't really care about that's kind of condensing this, so I'm just going to get rid of a few things. And that cleans that up a little bit. I don't care about this hello world post, so I'm going to trash that.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't care about it.
Well, Jay Bentley is
It's dead to me. All right, so I'm adding a new post. Looks very similar to adding a page. Can't type. Biggest difference, you have tags and categories instead of templates and parent and child relationships. So we don't have any categories because we haven't added any. If you don't choose a category, and I can't get rid of that, there's always an uncategorized category because there needs to be some kind of default bucket where everything goes if somebody forgets to do it. I'm going to create one called news. Now you can have child categories of parent categories. So if there was, I have news, and then I could have like athletics, under news, and that would be athletic news. Or I could just have a separate category that's called athletics. It just depends on, it depends more on what you're planning to use that post architecture for. The way we've kind of mocked out the sites to this point, the whole thing is news. So that was actually a terrible choice. I don't like that category. How do I get rid of that category? So I'm going to save my draft because I'm not done with this yet. And I'm going to go over to categories. And I'm going to delete that category because that was a silly thing. So I'm going to go back. So you can add categories from here if you want, as opposed to directly from the post. So now I'm going to go back into my draft post, which I haven't published yet. And I'm going to create a category called athletics. All right, and I don't want it to be uncategorized. So there's my SEO stuff, just like we talked about before. And that's pretty much it. The slug of this, I believe because it's multi-site, we need to leave the slugs for your posts the way that they are, so that so you don't run into content overlaps between the sites because they're all running in subdomains. But you get the date in there always automatically based on when it's published, but then you can still customize the end of that.
So is there a way to say at some point we want to populate several posts and not date them to show up later, but we don't want it to look like all 5 posts showed up on the same day? Is there a way to go backwards?
Yep. You can. So after you publish it, you can edit the date. And then you can also do that. Like, say you just went ahead and you created like 5 posts, and you're like, oh man, I did it all in one day, and I meant to do it like over the course of a week. You can do that from the quick edit too, where you can just quickly pull this open, change the date. Yep. So I can say, nope, this was published in April.
You just missed it.
Yeah,
Change the course of history.
that's right. So now it was published in April. Yeah. So, that's pretty much it for posts. The other part about posts that's a little confusing at first is the tagging aspect of it. So you have categories, and you can apply as many categories to one post as you want. My recommendation to everybody would be to try and be as judicious with that as possible, because say for instance you have one post and you put it in 9 different categories, where does it really belong? I would try and limit the amount of things you select to like 3, at most.
So the purpose of
Categories.
putting categories is to make it more easily searched?
Nope, it's so that you can create archives of posts. So if I wanted to see like all the athletic updates,
Okay.
how would I do that? Well, they'd all have to be associated with one bucket of information. Could that athletics update be also something else, like, I don't know.
So what's the difference?
Feature.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I know by definition, I know the difference between a category and a tag.
Yeah.
But what's the benefit of being judicious about both categories and tags? Why not just have all tags?
Well, categories are hierarchical, so you can create a more structured, navigation from like a usability standpoint. So like you're creating a menu. They essentially can do the exact same thing, and it doesn't even affect the URL the way that these are set up. Tags, I personally, just to try and make it simpler for people, is I explain that as like keyword duct tape. So like, say you have a post that is in, you know, a category of athletics, but the sport it was focusing on was football, then you would tag it football, because you could also have a news post that was also about football, and you would tag it as football, but it existed in another category called like groundskeeping, you know, information, you know, and that wasn't athletics so much as it was like, you know, maintenance, you know what I mean? But they would both show up in a football tag category because they both shared the
So
tag.
categories are like buckets.
Yeah.
Tags are like highlighter.
Yeah.
You know, you can have different highlighters.
Right.
In a bucket.
Yep. And then they both create 3 different archives. So there'd be the maintenance category archive, the athletics category archive, and then the football tag archive that would contain both of them,
Right.
because they were both tagged with football. So again, it's not something that's like crucial to the success of your website going forward, but it can be an interesting way for you to create alternative views of information for people.
Easier way to find right to know information.